show. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a good day. And wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing. Well, we cover a lot of different topics on the show. Some are easier to talk about than others, right? Easier in the sense that people have an interest in it. It's relevant, can help people with their day-to-day life. It helps them make some decisions, helps improve their quality of life, their status, their health status, and so on and so on. Those are typically easy to talk about. Some topics are more controversial than others. How do we deal with certain issues? How do we treat patients? How do we treat the elderly? And so on and so on. There's one that's very difficult to talk about. And in doing this series on aging, the end point for that process is that we leave this earth, right? We die. And talking about dying on a health talk show seems contradictory, but it is part of the process. And how we think about it, and how we talk about it, how we think about it, will drive what we do about it as a society and as individuals. And I've talked about it before on the show, and you do it with some risk because the topic, come on, it is dark. I recognize that. It's not one of those warm, fuzzy topics. Depending on your point of view now, people think about death in many different ways. Philosophers have written about it. Physicians and others, science, sociologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, communication people. It goes on and on. The topic, it is a universal condition. It's a universal feature of what we are and what happens to us. You need to put your mic on.
I have two friends that parents own funeral homes. They're in Dade City. One of them owns Milton Funeral Home, and the other one owns a place called the Hodges Funeral Home.
Dade City is a place outside of Tampa, Florida, for those of you who don't. Of course, this show's coast to coast, so it's a small town, not big, rural, more rural than not. So,
yeah, you're talking probably a population of probably around about 4,000 people.
Right.
It's got 2 stoplights.
And 2 funeral directors.
2 funeral parlors, yeah. And the conversation with death, one of my buddies told me, he goes, at the age of 5, he had to go sit with his family, was when he first started working in a funeral home. And the first funeral that he worked, he started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And his grandfather walked up to him and said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "We're supposed to be here to be strong for these people because death is a natural part of life."
Mm-hmm.
So his view of death is totally different than...
I'm sure.
What?
It's a business, and you see remains all the time, and that does affect you. I don't care who you are, in maybe good ways or bad ways. I don't know, but there's I'm reminded of any number of books. The Denial of Death, Irving was it Becker's book.
Mm-hmm.
Any number of books. More books and articles written on this topic than I can even begin to enumerate. But how we live, how we choose to live, how we choose to die, how we're cared for at the end of life are very important issues. and ones that we all have to face and deal with. So often the wings is the issue. It masquerades, you'll find it, the terminology is all over the place, but it's sometimes called doctor-assisted suicide, physician-assisted suicide. Other terms are used. There are differences between euthanasia and doctor-assisted suicide. I'll try to explain. And I thought what prompts me to talk about this, I was approached by a friend and a colleague whose father recently passed away. And he asked me, he said, given, all that you've gone through and your experience, do you have any advice for me? My father was diagnosed with cancer and he's terminal. Is there anything that you could tell me that would help me in caring for him now? And I thought for a moment, and I guess he expected a very long answer. It was very short. I said at least three things to keep in mind. One, there are no do-overs. Two, make sure your father does not suffer, no matter what. Whatever you have to do, by hook or by crook, don't let him suffer. And three, ensure that he passes and leaves this earth with dignity. And I said, that's all I have to say to you about it. I could tell you a lot more, but you'll figure it out. I said, but those three things, keep it in mind. There are no do-overs. Do the right thing, no matter what. Do right by your dad. And what I mean by that is don't let him suffer, and let him pass this earth, leave this earth, and go home with dignity. And his father passed away a couple of weeks later. That was my advice to him. And so it prompted me to think about this. And it's difficult to talk about. I mean, I don't know how to be upbeat about this and put a positive spin and be touchy-feely about it and make, have a feel-good conversation. This is tough stuff. And it's risky business to talk about it on a health talk show because it makes people uncomfortable. But sometimes that's what we have to do. I'm not comfortable with this. But trust me. I flirted with death for 1 year and more now. So I'm not unfamiliar with this. I have a far too intimate understanding about this. But it's something to think about. And it's part of preparation. You often hear me make a distinction between prevention and preparation. Preventing from getting sick and then preparing for things that happen down the road. People prepare a will, and they add codicils to their will as they go along, They change the will, a codicil. And they do all these very necessary things. What's the expression? Get your affairs straightened out. But there are other ways to prepare as well, both as an individual who is going to experience it and for those who have to help you go home. So I thought I would share a few things with you about it. I hope it doesn't. I'll try to do it in a optimistic, as best as I can, way, in a way that will serve you well and give you things to think about and maybe help. I will hazard a guess that there's probably more than a couple of people listening or watching this show coast to coast and worldwide that are having to make decisions about this, either for themselves or for somebody close to them. I'll do my best when we come back.
I'm Joy McCarthy, holistic nutritionist, and I expect more from my multivitamin. I've researched many vitamins, and what's truly different about Every Woman's One Daily from New Chapter is that it's fermented with probiotics and whole foods and gentle even on an empty stomach. Every Woman's One Daily helps you feel good every day, giving you immune, energy, and stress support, and nutrients for bone and heart health. You will notice a difference. Every Woman's One Daily recently won the Best Multivitamin Award, and I love that it's non-GMO project verified. Discover the wisdom of nature with New Chapter.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in today. Going to try to talk about this. I won't do it for 2 hours. This topic of physician-assisted suicide. It's come up. It is a controversial topic. Deals with death. Death. That's what it is. And I remember as a boy, I was an altar boy. I was telling Gary during the break, and he asked me how I felt about that. And I served many masses as an altar boy. It was a funeral mass. And funeral masses, if you're Catholic, you know, are a little different than regular mass. And I served my share of those, and I was just so young, 8, 9 years old, something like that. And I have such vivid memories of that. And Gary said, well, how did you feel about that? And what I recall very vividly is you feel a sense of being overwhelmed. You're a child. And here you are serving a mass with the priest and another altar boy. And the family is there, and people are mourning and upset. And the priest is, doing what the priest does, and all the ceremony, the trappings of the mass, and this and that. And you're caught up in it, and all the ritual and whatnot. And I would look around and be awestruck by the grief. It was upsetting, but I couldn't, it's hard to, you're a child. How do you process that? How do you intellectualize it? And you're reacting emotionally primarily, very raw, and seeing the family and whatnot being in a deep state of grief many times. And it made me wonder, at that age, you're so detached from that event. As being that young, 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in there, and dealing with death. And you feel like that's something, you don't even relate to it. You can't, it's something that you don't think, well, this is going to happen I never thought this is going to happen to me. And that's, I think, a lot of kids, a lot of boys felt that kids or altar boys, even adults, we are in denial, right? Mm-hmm. So the point is, what would you want to do when you're faced with this? And brings up the topic of doctor-assisted suicide. What prompted the story of the Associated Press came across the transom this morning. The Hawaii House has approved a bill that would allow physicians to prescribe life-ending medication to terminally ill patients. The state of Hawaii. This was yesterday. It sent the measure to its Senate, which last year overwhelmingly approved a similar bill. Now, this is interesting. I understand Hawaii is one of the states in the United States, but it is a very unique state in terms of the culture and the rituals. It's not like being in Pittsburgh, Tennessee, L.A. It's different, right? Given the culture. I am not surprised that they would embrace it, given what little I know of that culture. Now, the proposal that's going into the state Senate there in Hawaii would allow the physician to prescribe life-ending medication to a mentally capable patient with less than 6 months to live. In other words, you've been told you are terminal, end stage, and you have less than 6 months. The patient must be able to take the medication, him or herself, which is kind of bizarre, and would be required to undergo a mental health consultation. Okay, I get the safeguards. I understand. Those who support the bill have some of the strongest they say the bill has some of the strongest safeguards in the United States. But those who are critical of such a piece of legislation want to improve enforcement and prevent abuse. There's a representative by name Nadine Nakamura. Representative Nakamura, she's a Democrat who supports the bill, spoke about the loss of her father and her brother, and she said, quote, "In the end, when they could no longer walk and take care of themselves, both wanted a choice to die with dignity." Just what I said a moment ago. This bill is about giving people a choice. Close quote. California, Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, Washington State, and the District of Columbia all have legalized medical assisted suicide. It's really something to ponder. What would you want? What do you want to do? I always said, I always have believed, beginning with being that altar boy, serving funeral masses, and watching that, and then growing up, I've always believed people, for some reason, I don't know how I got there, but I always have believed that people have the right to choose the way they wish to die. I don't know how I got there intellectually. I have no clue. I just got there. Some disagree with that. They think, well, whatever happens to you, you just have to, whatever. I don't subscribe to that view. You're listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, Nutrition Coast to Coast. We'll be right back.
Almost 52% of men experience erectile dysfunction and benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you've had challenges with virility, sexual health, or low energy, Body Vigor's Alpha Extension may be the answer for you. Body Vigor's Alpha Extension can help revitalize your alpha male and extend your love. Our formula is one of the highest quality nutraceuticals available, formulated to support the processes involved in promoting a healthy male sex drive, energy, and stamina. Alpha Extension has 2 powerful herbal blends, Virilomax, which focuses on male sexual health, and T-Pump Activator, which helps balance your testosterone levels. Revitalize your alpha male with Body Vigor's Alpha Extension, exclusively available on Amazon.com.
Well, making a decision about how you want to leave the earth is a tough decision, and it will implicate you, your family, and friends, and probably others, maybe even lawyers and doctors. It's complicated. Right now, mandated by state law, you have only a handful of states that will allow for physician-assisted suicide. Of Oregon, Vermont, Washington, California, Colorado, District of Columbia, and it looks like Hawaii is on its way, given the story that I just reported on. Now, physician-assisted suicide is different from the concept of euthanasia, which is different in that you're assisting a person is assisted with their death in order to end their suffering, but without the support of backing of any legal authority. In Oregon, and I'm quoting now from Oregon law, the physician must be a doctor of medicine or a doctor of osteopathy, licensed to practice medicine by the Board of Medical Examiners for the state of Oregon. The physician must also be willing to participate in the act, close quote. I am sure that Dr. Kevorkian comes to many of you, your memory. He was vilified, and I think unjustly so. Now, he was an odd cat, no doubt about it. He was a little peculiar, with all due respect to him. He's one of those guys, you get this sense of brutal authenticity with him. He's a guy that, just...
He didn't sugarcoat anything.
Nothing. I mean, he's like a ball-peen hammer. There was no finesse there. None. Zero. Zero. That was Dr. Kevorkian. He didn't help himself. And he had good lawyers at one point. Then he got silly and almost, really, quite frankly, made some bad calls, and he ended up in jail. In the state of Vermont, quote, only a doctor of medicine or osteopathy licensed to practice medicine in Washington may write this prescription. A physician, nurse, pharmacist, or other person shall not be under any duty by law or contract or to participate in the provision of a lethal dose of medication to a patient, close quote. You see a pattern here already just with two states. You have to have some physician or osteopath, either an MD or an osteopath present, involved. Somebody's got to write that order. In Washington, quote, only a doctor of medicine or osteo, you get it? Same thing. State of California, an individual seeking to obtain a prescription for an aid in dying drug shall submit 2 oral requests, a minimum of 15 days apart, and a written request to his or her attending physician. These are all safeguards. This is, you want to give people a chance to think it through, talk it through. The attending physician shall directly and not through a designee receive all 3 requests required pursuant to this section, close quote. So the physician, first you have to live in a state and have residency that allows for this law. Second, you have to have a physician who is willing to do this. In Colorado, quote, allows an eligible terminally ill individual with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request and self-administer medical aid in dying medication in order to voluntarily end his or her life. It authorizes a physician to prescribe medical aid in dying medication to a terminally ill individual under certain conditions, and creates criminal penalties for tampering with a person's request for medical aid in dying medication or knowingly coercing a person with a terminal illness to request the medication, close quote. Now, I understand legally why the government is very antsy, or how can I put this more eloquently, how the government is so cautious about all this. Given what we know about the nature of human nature, there is a dark side to human nature. We all know that. And you can bet there'll be some who would abuse this. Right. Family members who would you're thinking, you're going to force somebody to do this? Yeah, what if you have a family member that doesn't want to take care of that person anymore? Or has some ulterior motive, other motive. The will being, getting the inheritance sooner rather than later. You're saying, my God, that's such a grim view of human nature. Well, that's what people do. That's what humans do. Sometimes we do very unkind criminal things. And so the government and the law is very careful in these states. I get it. I understand. In the District of Columbia, which is surprising, you obtain the medication. A patient shall make 2 oral requests, separated again by 15 days, etc., etc. It has to be to a physician. The same physician has to get the requesters. And so these laws are complicated and intended to avoid or short-circuit some abuse. I just reported about 3 or 4 weeks ago, what country, was it Norway? Which country was that?
Yeah, I believe
where people are requesting to die and are not terminally ill. And let me back up one more step. They're not even ill. They're just done. I don't know if you caught that show, but I reported on that story. I was so struck, and it got me to the topic of these people just felt like they were not relevant anymore. That in their society, and I'm surprised, the country, I thought it was Norway, I could be wrong, that they just felt they had no purpose to live anymore, and they wanted to die. And the government was considering passing a law for them to do that. I mean, they've taken it a step further. This goes to the issue of how we treat the elderly in our culture. And when a person reaches that point, I saw on CNN, they were dealing with the issue of aging. It was Dr. Gupta. It was just this past weekend. And one of the things that they're doing is they have young children going into the nursing homes and spending time with the residents there. The children love it, and so do the elderly. It was wonderful to watch. I thought, what an ingenious idea. You're taking these youngsters at the beginning of life and those toward the end and put them together.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. It was brilliant. And the residents were so happy and enthusiastic and had purpose, and they loved you could see how they were holding those children. I mean, it was amazing. So there's always some good in the dark. There's always some light. Just have to look for it.
Did you know that the most common form of calcium...
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce exclusively on Amazon.com.
back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing. If you'd like to comment on the topic that I was just discussing with you, please don't hesitate to call. I know it's a difficult topic, but if you have a thought or two, some feelings about it, and you'd like to share that, I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure others would as well. It's something, remember I keep saying we're all in this together? All our differences notwithstanding. And at the end of the day, we're all in it together. This is, there's certain things that we all share and we all have to deal with. And that's why we need to be a little kinder to one another. So here's how to connect with the show.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255. Don't forget Dr. Garko's personal email, drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and on Twitter at LTN Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Let's Talk Nutrition, 3 words, where everything is archived and closed captioned.
Okay, so in working on this project, on this aging project, there was an article that I came across that was entitled, and it's a very useful piece. I'll end up using it in some form or fashion. It's called "The Hallmarks of Aging." So yesterday I was back in the literature again. You spend most of your time very quietly trying to find those writings, articles, books, essays of one kind or another, even literature, whatever, poems, narratives, stories, films. I'll look for anything that will inform me on this topic. And I'm going through the I forget the key words I typed in yesterday what I was doing, but I ended up I was looking for a article or a treatise, something that did an examination of the different definitions of aging, how we have conceptualized it and defined it. And in doing that, and I had in the back of my head that article, The Hallmarks of Aging. So I'm going along. I'm about into an hour and a half of this. And I come across an article entitled Olive Oil and the Hallmarks of Aging. This caught my attention for a number of reasons. Because, there are some who embrace the notion of a whole food, plant-based diet, no meat, no dairy, and those such as Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn will say no oil. And he says no oil, especially for those patients that have coronary artery disease and are at great risk of having a heart attack or a stroke and dying. He will tell them no oil as well. None. No oil. Not even olive oil. So in that context, and what typically happens is then that gets extrapolated out to where people adopt the notion that all oil is horrible. Not everybody embraces Dr. Esselstyn's point of view. This article is hefty. If you're watching, there it is. I mean, it is, 30 pages, 40 pages, something like that. It's 30. I was exactly right. 30, 2 of 30, 1 of 30. 30. It felt like 30. I've been doing this so long. It felt like 30 pages. It's 30 pages long, talking about the hallmarks of aging and how olive oil can help in the aging process. Now, it would be interesting to get Caldwell Esselstyn's take on this. Aging, as they say in the article, and I've said it in my own writings, is multidimensional. It's multifactorial. and tissue-specific process. It will attack certain tissues, cells, tissues, and organs, no doubt about it. And there are certain hallmarks of aging that have become recognized. And what's interesting, the author of The Hallmarks of Aging, and then the authors of Olive Oil and the Hallmarks of Aging, they published in 2 different journals. And here the hallmarks of aging are genomic instability. I'll explain what these mean. Telomere attrition.
What is the telomeres? We talked about that like last week.
Yes, all the time. Telomere attrition, epigenetic alterations, loss of proteostasis, that means where proteins get unraveled.
Okay.
Deregulated nutrient sensing, where, I'll explain, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, stem cell exhaustion, and altered intracellular communication. Those 9 hallmarks of aging are repeated over and over again throughout the literature in different places. You'll have a whole line of research just on telomeres. You'll have a whole line of research just on genomic instability, genes, epigenetic alterations, and it's scattered all over hither and yon. So when you come across these kinds of articles where they consolidate everything, it makes it comprehensible. I was struck by the amount of research with respect to olive oil and all these different hallmarks of aging and how olive oil makes a contribution in moderating these aging processes and their effects. If you, we can probably put that up on our website. It's entitled Olive Oil and the Hallmarks of Aging. The first author on this was these were Spanish researchers, but it's in English. You can get it in English. The first author is Lucia Fernandez del Rio, and then 2 or 3 other researchers. We'll post that. It's worth your time to read if you're interested in olive oil. One thing I will say about olive oil, one of the big mistakes people make with using olive oil, they cook with it at high heat. I wouldn't recommend that. Don't do that. That's when you get it. That's when it really becomes something that was healthy, really deleterious to your health. Olive oil and the hallmarks of aging, for those of you who love olive oil. Okay.
At Country
Almost 52% of men experience erectile dysfunction and benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you've had challenges with virility, sexual health, or low energy, Body Vigor's Alpha Extension may be the answer for you. Body Vigor's Alpha Extension can help revitalize your alpha male and extend your love. Our formula is one of the highest quality nutraceuticals available, formulated to support the processes involved in promoting a healthy male sex drive, energy, and stamina. Alpha Extension has 2 powerful herbal blends, Virilo Max, which focuses on male sexual health, and T-Pump Activator, which helps balance your testosterone levels. Revitalize your alpha male with Body Vigor's Alpha Extension, exclusively available on Amazon.com.
Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for stopping by today. We're in the middle of it all, middle of the week. Hope you're having a good week. So far, so good, I hope. And in the first portion of the show, talked about a difficult topic, physician-assisted suicide for patients who are in end stage, who have 6 months or less, who have been told to have 6 months or less to live. And I reported on that because a story came across the transom this morning that in the state of Hawaii, they are considering instituting legislation to make that happen in the state of Hawaii. It looks like they're moving toward that direction, and my bias is that I favor that. Given what I've gone through, I can tell you that it's one of the things I've learned over this past year and a half or so, that patients have the right to choose the way they want to leave this earth, or as it is often said, go home. That metaphor of going home. In African American culture, that phrase, going home, is used a lot to talk about passing away. Many of my African American friends and colleagues I've known my whole life, some of them, often use that, and that's interesting, going home. So we talked about that. So the state of Hawaii may, looks like they're going that way, will then be among the states that mandated by state law. Oregon, Vermont, Washington, California, Colorado, District of Columbia. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now. Mandated by court ruling is Montana, by the way, too. The first 6 I mentioned are state law, and then court ruling is Montana. And if you go to CNN, they have there's an article there entitled Physician-Assisted Suicide Fast Facts. That will give you a sense of, it'll give you the chronology of things, how things unfolded since 1997, when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that state laws banning physician-assisted suicide do not violate the Constitution. And then it went on from there. Yeah. Oregon's Death with Dignity Act. There's the Brittany Maynard. I don't know if you remember her, a 29-year-old with terminal brain cancer. And she moved to Oregon so she could die with dignity. That was in 2014, by the way. I remember her. She was such a beautiful young woman, a person, and in every way. And she passed away. And she wanted to go. She wanted the right to die the way with dignity, and didn't want her family to suffer and whatnot. And yeah, it's a complicated issue, I know. But I wanted to address it, and we try to deal with the hard topics as well, and do it in an optimistic way, as best one can with that topic. That's a tough topic. But I did mention on CNN over the weekend, I saw Dr. Gupta. He did a little series, not a series, but he did a story on aging. He has a weekly show. And they were talking about aging in the different cultures. In fact, he was looking at one in Sardinia. He went into the Mediterranean, and he went to Sardinia, and he was looking at how they age and talked about the culture and this and that. And then he reported on this one nursing home where they brought in young children. It was I believe it was England, where the children go. They bring the children into the nursing home to spend time with the residents. And they spend the day together, I guess they have lunch or whatever, and they interact, and it was really marvelous to watch. It was such an ingenious idea. The children benefited, the children loved it. and the elderly just as much. It was quite something. I must say, it was quite something. They had a man there. He was 108 or something like that, walking around. My goodness. Aging, a tough topic, too. I'm dealing with it and writing this series, so we'll see how it turns out. I also reported on an article. If you're a lover of olive oil, you would find some solace in this one article by we posted up on our website, Luis Fernandez del Rio and others on the article. They did a nice review of the literature, olive oil and the hallmarks of aging, the 9 hallmarks of aging, and how olive oil can help with genomic instability and telomere attrition. Maybe I'll spend a few moments talking about that. Epigenetic changes induced by olive oil. Again, my cautionary note on olive oil is don't cook with it at high heat. Olive oil is, it's fat. Fat molecules are sensitive to light and heat. They get oxidized quickly and then become they do more damage than good. So, yeah, this article is amazing. It's 30 pages long on olive oil. I came across it by accident yesterday in about an hour and a half into my research yesterday, and I saw it and I thought, gee, this looks like an article on hallmarks of aging. Sure enough, they used that article to talk about olive oil and show how olive oil addresses the 9 hallmarks of aging by Carlos Lopez Oten and others. So, if you're interested in these things, we post the articles or the links to them on the Let's Talk Nutrition Facebook page, Gary?
Yes.
Is that what we do?
Yes. Right on our Facebook page right after today's video. So you'll see our video, then our poster on there.
Okay. And that's how you can get in touch with the article. People appreciate that. They thank me all the time. It saves you a lot of time. I'll find these things and share them with you, and then you can, use them how you will. The olive oil one is pretty impressive. Lately, I haven't been using it. I've been trying to avoid oil, but after reading the article, I'm thinking, I love olive oil. I like olive oil. I grew up on olive oil. My mom was Italian immigrant. What do you think? There was more olive oil in the house than I had sense.
There's 5 types of olive oil.
Okay, go ahead.
Extra virgin.
That's what I use.
Virgin.
Okay.
Refined.
All right.
Olive pomace oil. POMACE.
Go ahead.
And lampet oil. LAMPANT.
Not familiar with those last 2. I use extra virgin olive oil. That's the first press, right? Is that what it says?
Yeah, and the pomace olive oil is a lowest grade of olive oil made from byproducts of extra virgin olive oil. Olive skins, seeds, and pulp are heated, and the remaining oil is extracted using hexane, a solvent.
Hexane.
Hexane is a solvent. The result, pomace oil, is then through the refining process similar to a pure or light olive oil.
Yeah. I do the extra virgin. It's delicate. It doesn't sustain the heat very well, so don't cook. I'm just telling you, don't do it. And I see chefs doing it all the time. And they're using olive oil, and they got the skillet, man. It's hot. And they put that oil in there, and you oxidize the oil. It's very damaging to the cells. Those are free radicals, man. So you took a good thing, turned it into a bad thing. Humans do that a lot. We'll be right back.
Women who are pregnant or planning to have a child have specific nutritional needs. Maintaining optimal nutritional intake is important for mother and baby. Body Vigor's Preferred Prenatal can help mother and baby receive the appropriate building blocks for growth, development, and healthy function. The Preferred Prenatal formula provides essential vitamins and minerals, along with added support ingredients such as folic acid and DHA. Preferred Prenatal also incorporates a bonus herbal blend to help the mom-to-be with the uncomfortable side effects of pregnancy, like nausea, vomiting, mood swings, and uterine health. Support a healthy pregnancy for you and your baby with Preferred Prenatal, exclusively on Amazon.com.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. I was talking with Gary during the break, and I was telling him about Dr. Kevorkian. And I said, you know, Dr. Kevorkian was a painter. And I said, if you look at his paintings, from my memory, I remember when I saw them, I said, what's going on in that guy's head? Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. They are bizarre.
Yes. to say the least, bizarre as...
Can you put a couple of those up?
Yeah.
I mean, now, just to go back to that topic again about physician-assisted suicide, I don't know if you know this about it, if you remember this about Dr. Kevorkian. He made the limelight in the 1990s with the highly publicized case where he ended up being charged with murder. By the way, he assisted over 40 people in committing suicide in the state of Michigan. But in 1990, he was charged with murder. There was a woman by the name at the time, her name was Janet Atkins. She was 54 years old at the time. Look at that strange painting. That's what was in his subconscious. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So he assisted her death. He was charged with murder. They eventually dropped the charges because there were no laws in Michigan outlawing doctor-assisted suicide, medical assistance. So he was not in violation of any law. And he was a provocative character. I'm sure you remember him. Then he crossed the line. It's reported he crossed the line by actively killing the patient himself. He did it. And he videotaped it, and I don't know if you remember, with a man with a lethal injection, and then he went on 60 Minutes and showed the videotape. Jeffrey Feiger was his lawyer at the time. Jeffrey was a very good lawyer. Kevorkian was found guilty of second-degree murder, and I don't know if you remember this or not either, but he served 8 years in prison, man. He had a sentence of 10 to 25. And he was released in 2000 and died in 2011. So, but his paintings are so strange. He was odd, no doubt. He didn't help the cause much. He was trying to do a good thing, but you look at those paintings, they are odd, aren't they, Gary?
Yes.
Pictures of these clowns, but they're not funny clowns. These are
grim
clowns of death. I mean, just dark. But he had a facility for painting. I mean, he had apparently some talent. I couldn't do that. Strange character, Dr. Kevorkian.
I do good to tie my shoes.
And he did quite a few of them, as you can see.
Yeah, he did a lot.
He did a lot. Put that one up. Look at that one. I mean, what is that? Come on, man. Skull. I mean, what is he doing? There's other. Show the one with the clown.
Oh yeah. Look for
If you watch the show, you'll see some of these paintings. I don't know. Anyway,
they look like really bad tattoos for outlaw biker gangs.
Good. Well, that's a good description. I don't know if Stephen remembers. Do you remember Doctor? Are you old enough to remember him? You remember him, right? Of course you are. You're old enough.
Yep, I remember.
I didn't ask you. How do you feel about physician-assisted suicide? I know that you're pretty candid about things like that. What's your take?
I mean, I don't see any problem with it in the sense that it's my body or it's your body. It's your decision. Earlier in the first hour, you were talking about what country was it that was doing it or considering it?
Was it Belgium?
For people that weren't even ill
Sick.
or
Right.
at the end times type of state, and that to me is a little iffy because that then you get into like a mental health state.
They just didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah, and should we be there helping those people want to live versus letting them? Because to me, those are two different situations, even though it's the same thing. So
that's just the way to put it. Should we be there to help them to live? Give them a purpose. They just gave up. They just gave up. You remember? You remember reporting on that, right?
Yes.
And I was so struck by can you find the exact country? Can you find that story, Gary?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in my notes. I was so struck by that, and I thought, what a state of affairs when you have a population of people who are not sick, who are not terminally ill, and just want to leave the earth because they don't feel relevant anymore. I thought, gee, that's so discouraging. And you said it you better than I did. Why don't we? Maybe we should focus on trying to give them a purpose to live, which went to my issue of that we don't treat the elderly very well, and there's room for improvement. And this country, I thought it was Norway, but I could be wrong. Gary's going to look it up. And
they say the Dutch is the first one that comes up.
All right.
And then in Belgium, doctor gives healthy woman green light to die by euthanasia.
I don't know. See, that to me is that's pushing. I mean, that pushes the parameters of things. I don't know about that. That I don't. Honestly, I don't know. My saying I don't know means it's not that I'm against it or for it. I just don't know. But I feel uncomfortable with that.
But on the other end of the spectrum is our good friend Rufino's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Rufino. You're aging, my man.
Successfully, it looks like from his pictures.
Yeah, he looks good. You see, we don't celebrate my birthday because they put all the candles on the cake, and it sets the alarm in the house. They can know. Generate so much heat, burn down the house, man. Happy birthday, Rufino. Congratulations. How old is he?
I'm not gonna say.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Women who are pregnant or planning to have a child have specific nutritional needs. Maintaining optimal nutritional intake is important for mother and baby. Body Vigor's Preferred Prenatal can help mother and baby receive the appropriate building blocks for growth, development, and healthy function. The Preferred Prenatal formula provides essential vitamins and minerals, along with added support ingredients such as folic acid and DHA. Preferred Prenatal also incorporates a bonus herbal blend to help the mom-to-be with the uncomfortable side effects of pregnancy, like nausea, vomiting, mood swings, and uterine health. Support a healthy pregnancy for you and your baby with Preferred Prenatal, exclusively on Amazon.com.
welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. No guest today, so it gives me a chance to report on, a little off the beaten path. I came across a story. This is so strange. I was not aware. Apparently, in Amsterdam, there's a town. It's called Hodgeway, and there's a nursing home there, Hodgeway Nursing Home. The headline on the story is "The Dutch Village Where Everyone Has Dementia." Kid you not. This was report. This is not some offbeat, fallacious, false news story. This appeared in the Atlantic. It's a pretty reputable periodical, and in this town apparently, dementia is rampant. The isolated village of Hodgeway lies on the outskirts of Amsterdam in the small town of Weesp, and they have dubbed it Dementia Village. The CNN reported on this. This was a while back. It's apparently this facility, Hodgeway, they describe it as a cutting-edge elderly care facility, and it's about the size of 10 football fields. It's huge, where residents are given a chance to live seemingly normal lives, they report. There's only 152 people who live there. And they said it's a benevolent version of the Truman Show.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reading the story now on CNN.
So what's the Truman Show? The Truman Show
was like a closed village, like it was inside of a soundstage.
Okay. If the Truman Show were about dementia and Alzheimer patients, it would be like the Truman Show. And I'm giving attribution now to the Atlantic. This I'm quoting and reporting from the Atlantic. Like most small villages, they said in the article, it has its own unique town square. It has a theater, post office, and everything. Pretty idyllic. It's good. Last year, CNN reported that residents at Hodgeway require fewer medications, eat better, live longer, and appear more joyful than those in standard elderly care facilities. Okay, so far so good. No wards, no they have long hallways, no wards or long hallways, no corridors. It's a nice place.
Did you read where it's the goal? They have a simple goal: provide the most normal possible life, reminiscent of each individual's formative years.
Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Residents are only admitted if they are categorized as having severe cases of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Close quote. The vacancies are rare. Places, filled up. Given that a spot only opens when a current resident will pass away. The village has operated virtually at full capacity since it opened in 2009 in this village, where there's this high incidence of dementia. It's funded by the Dutch government, and it cost about $25 million to build. It was not all that expensive. It costs about $8,000 a month to be there, and the government subsidizes it. And here, often nursing homes are linked to poor quality of life. Not so here. No mistreatment of patients. The morale is high, but the patients are there suffer from dementia. It's exclusive. It just for them. There's some form of it. But this one village, the rate of dementia is alarming, and I was looking to see how they explain that, and I couldn't tease that out. It's a long piece, but they ask the question in the article: how much of dementia is a result of disease, and how much of it is a result of how we treat it, or how much of it, I would pose, is environmental. What is going on in that village? What is it about that place, that environment, where you have this inordinate, aberrant level of dementia? Something is up. Yeah.
Doc, I've done physical activity where it's like taken me a minute to recoup of like my surroundings.
Yeah.
Before, like paint. I've painted and gotten a little like lost. Have you? I mean,
yeah, I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Now, it could be the way they're reporting this is that this Dutch village, the headline on it was the Dutch village where everyone has dementia. Now, this village is a town. Now, it may be that what they're wanting to say is that the people in that village the village is a nursing home is what it is, and it's all patients with dementia. So that it's not a function of them getting dementia. Now I get what they're trying to do, of them living in that village, but it's a function of the village is dedicated to patients with dementia or some form of it. And it's apparently now. I know of no place in the U.S. that's like that, where that level of care is given. That's amazing when you think about it. The Dutch village where everyone has dementia, the town of Hodgeway, outside of Amsterdam. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever spent any time in a nursing home, but it can be disconcerting. You worked in a nursing home.
Yeah, I worked 5 years in a nursing home.
All right. Not fun.
No.
Not fun. Quite frankly, it's the last stop for most patients in there. They're going there to die. Very few walk back out of there. I saw one case walk out when my mom was in a nursing home for a year before she passed. Most, no. So... But the Dutch government, it's amazing what they did. This is a village. It's huge, a huge facility. And the government put their mind that they were going to care for these patients in a way that was unique and humane. And, yeah. I'll tell you the level of detail. There are homes in the village, residents, that resemble the 50s, the 70s, and 2000s, to the extent that they put down to the tablecloth, the type of tablecloth that was back in the 1950s, for example. That's the kind of detail. I mean, I can't even imagine us doing that in here. Are you kidding me? Tablecloth? You're lucky you get a bed.
Are your joints feeling out of date and stiff? Is that old sports injury flaring up? Is your body aching from the daily wear and tear at work? Body Vigor's Joint Ready keeps you at the ready for any joint pain that gets out of line. Unfortunately, as we age, joint pain becomes more common. Body Vigor's Joint Ready can help provide relief so you can continue to go about your day. Our formula contains sulfated forms of glucosamine and chondroitin. Studies show that these sulfated forms are more effective than regular glucosamine bound to hydrochloride. Joint Ready promotes a healthy inflammatory response, facilitates cartilage synthesis, and provides additional antioxidants. Keep your joints at the ready with Body Vigor's Joint Ready, exclusively on Amazon.com.
LTN health question of the day. Which of the following states does not have a mandated state law or a mandated court ruling for doctor-assisted suicide? Which of the following states does not? One of them does not. Okay. A, Oregon, B, Vermont, C, Pennsylvania, D, California. Which one of those does not have a mandated law, either by state or court ruling, for doctor-assisted suicide? Oregon, Vermont, Pennsylvania, or California? Oregon, Vermont, Pennsylvania, or California. One of those four does not have a mandated law. Here's the number to call to win a $25 supplement gift card.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255.
I'll give you a hint. I grew up in that state. There's a hint. Particular city, but this is a state from where I hailed. Which of the following states does not have a mandated law or mandated by state law or court ruling for doctor-assisted suicide? Oregon, Vermont, Pennsylvania, or California? One of those four. It's a strange. I know that's a strange topic, and I know it's hard, but I wanted to address it. Something to think about, and for us to consider. I don't know how you feel about it. I know people are sometimes reluctant to talk about it. Makes us uncomfortable. It does. I get it. But, it's life. And that's what this show is. It's a health talk show, but it is a show about life. And so we do our best to try to deal with some of these more difficult topics in a way that is optimistic. I had a bunch of other stories I was going to report on, but there were no guests today, and everything from how fasting boosts exercise to how larger waist and hips may raise women's heart attack risk to how fasting boosts, as I said, exercise effects on endurance. In my reading on aging, I can tell you that strategic calorie restriction or fasting is a strategy that has beneficial effects. The evidence is compelling. How calorie restriction slows the aging process. In a simple way, my belief, my hypothesis is that the reason why is because you don't have so much metabolic activity and the creation of free radicals. When oxygen gets involved, you get free radicals. Every time you eat, that food has to get metabolized. And the free radicals do damage. So if the fasting, it's more complicated than that, but strategic fasting, calorie restriction. Now, I know there are some people that graze all day long, every day. That really that runs counter to the aging literature in terms of what contributes to longevity. I'm just saying. Which one's first? Cleveland, Georgia? Let's go to Cleveland, Georgia. Who is that? Brandine. Hi, Brandine. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. So you heard my talking today about doctor-assisted suicide, helping the patient not suffer. Which of the following states which one does not have a law to help with that? Is it, what were the four that I gave? Oregon, Vermont, Pennsylvania, California. Which one of those four? Oregon, Vermont, Pennsylvania, or California? Which one of those four does not have a law for it?
I'm guessing Oregon.
Well, No, not you didn't get it today, but Oregon does have a law. As a matter of fact, it turns out, Brandine, that Oregon has been on the forefront of that movement for patients' right to die. They have, in fact, some people will move to Oregon and establish residence for that purpose. So that was not the right answer. But don't let that discourage you from ever calling me again, okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Peoria. Janelle, how are you today, Janelle?
Fine, thank you.
So which state is it that doesn't have a law that I mentioned?
I'm guessing Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's Pennsylvania. They don't. Hawaii is now considering it. As in fact, there's a story this morning that's trending where they're going to vote on it in the state Senate. They're going to try to pass the law. They seem to be inclined to want to do it. May I ask, if you feel uncomfortable answering, you don't have to. How do you feel about this?
I feel it's wrong.
You do? Tell me why.
I don't believe it's in man's hands to take a life.
Uh-huh. That is an argument that is one of the main arguments that is made, that we're intervening in God's plan, in a word, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
As bad as it is.
It's a tough decision, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. You hate to see suffering, but that's in His hands, not ours.
It's an interesting. I respect that view.
Yeah.
I do. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of what we believe and what we feel and what we're comfortable with, right?
I wouldn't go with all those, but that's your opinion.
I know. No, I mean, I'm saying that people have their point of view is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes, people have their point of view.
They have their point of view based on how they feel, think, and their experience, and I'm open-minded. I like to hear what people have to say and think about it. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to the show too.
You're welcome. I enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. It's a privilege to come into your neighborhood and your neck of the woods up there in Peoria. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot for tuning in today. We're grateful. We appreciate you, and be headed off to California this week. We're headed toward the end of the week. And we'll be at the Expo West Natural Products Trade Show. I'll see what we can find that's new and intriguing. We'll keep you apprised of that as well. In the meanwhile, take care of yourself. Your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you.